It's Thursday, it's 8 o'clock, and it's the Big Detective Show. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hello, Dave. How are you? I'm good. I hope everyone's okay. Yes.
Funny all week.
Yes. Yeah, I think I was just saying before we come on air, sort of spent the week listening to chilled out music on the radio, driving to work, and then suddenly it's all like drum and bass and all malarkey rock and metal because the morning's finished now after the weekend, isn't it?
It has. And as such, we've brought back our adverts, which gives me the opportunity, obviously, to share the show. And if you would like to help us out by giving the show a share wherever you may be, we would much appreciate it, because we've got a guest on tonight that unfortunately we had to postpone the show a couple of weeks ago, and he's been able to join us tonight, and we've been looking forward to speaking to him greatly, haven't we, since we met him at Rodney Cook?
Yes, I very briefly met him at Rodney Cook, yeah, and listened to a bit of the book, and which
don't hit yourself in the face, mate.
That's why I wear glasses. And if you scan this QR code on your phone when Dave makes the screen big, If you scan that on your phone, that will take you to the book on Amazon, and it's also available on Audible as well, which is my preferred option. But it's a great book, and I can honestly, if you look at the reviews so far, it's all 4 or 5 star. And for us in the hobby, it's us. It's us. It's got all the top people in there, which we'll no doubt talk about later on in the show when Nigel comes on. But yeah, really, really good book. That's my holiday listening, Dave, because I'm not here next week or the week after.
You're not. And as you mentioned reviews, it just so happens that the book review by Kerry Fuller of The Lost Tapes of History is now live on the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine, with links to the book on Amazon. Lovely review. I mean, I've read the first couple of chapters and totally agree with everything that's been said of the other ones that we've seen up to now, and can't wait to get back to it. I'm off next week myself, so woohoo!
Gary Cook's 9 chapters, I think, so I might skip.
And that's just Gary Cook talking, isn't it?
It's just him talking about his clothing he wears and stuff, and then Rodney Cook, I think, is like 1 chapter. So yeah, but I'll wait until I get to that. I'll probably have that. I'll listen to that when I go to bed.
Did you borrow them Speedos off him for your holidays?
Dave, can't get them. Couldn't get them
No!
in the size I wanted in time. No. So
did you get the other ones?
He might be watching
the other ones.
Don't touch your nose like that. I'm from Essex. People get
other ones. The ones that when you go into water?
No, I can't get those.
Oh, they're the ones you're on about?
Yeah. In stock, and you order it, and it's like, yeah. I think everyone bought them in the summer. Anyway, Dave Sadler, are you in the book? Chris Langston says. No.
I am in the book when I put my arm in it like that. Yes.
Yeah. No,
unfortunately, not me and Nigel and I didn't have the pleasure beforehand. Luke was dealing with a lot of things and putting in the Nigel and whatnot, his publishers in contact with certain people. Another thing we want to give mention to, Adrian, I'll let you do this because I was going to do it, but I'll let you do it. John Clayton.
Oh, John Clayton and Percy. Metal Detecting Live Chat YouTube channel. Give it a shout. John's been watching the show for many years, hasn't he, Dave?
He has. He's been a solid supporter.
And he's got a YouTube channel. What was it, Dave? Metal Detecting Live Chat with Dave, John and Percy. And it's quite funny. It's just like me and Dave. But
Percy Pegg.
No, not Percy Pig. No, not Percy Pig. But yeah, so we give him a shout. And someone else messaged me something about badgers this week. Can't remember who it was. Monarch Designs. I've forgotten his name. Thompson, Brian. He's got some cracking stuff coming out soon, and no doubt we'll soon hear about that. And Sci-Fines messaged me today. He's coming round my way to do one of his YouTube.
Yes, Sci-Fines. We've got to organise for him to come back on the show. We met him at Detectable. Do you know what? I need to write a list of the people that we've actually invited onto this show because I should have done it while we were away, and alcohol occurred.
I didn't drink much. I can't remember. Rodney Cook. Oh, Rodney Cook had their one day last weekend.
Yes, again, very, 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 very successful.
And Fodder Phil lost.
Congratulations to Team Mickey, who had Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine field reporter Shane Holdcroft, the Staffordshire searcher on the team. So it must be the look of the mag, surely.
Yeah, it must be. But that went really well, and I think the money from that will go to the money from the Weekender, and it will absolutely smash what's been raised in previous years total. So well done, Gary and his team.
Somebody, Philip Wills has just brought up cake. Do you know, at Detectable, nobody brought me any cake.
They did, Dave, on Sunday. That lady brought you the biggest chocolate cake I've ever seen.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that with all the gold coins on.
And also, that was at Detectable. And at Rodney Cook, Gary's wife put a plate on the table with 5 pieces of cake and I think it was for everyone on the trade stands, but you ate all of it.
How can you say such a thing?
You ate. I've never seen anyone. I don't know how you did it. You ate basically a cake. It was like.
Can I just point out? I didn't actually eat anything apart from breakfast stuff at Detectable but cake. I had nothing else to save myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're wittering. Oh, Dave Sadler, we'll have to have a bottle. Yes, absolutely. We'll have bottle digging. Yes, he's taking me bottle digging as young Chris. I've been desperate to go bottle digging for years. I know Chris has got some fantastic sites that he goes metal detecting, but that's his. I'm not interested. He's shown me the bottles, and I'm desperate to go bottle digging.
Well, Cy Finds. I sent him a location near me that is in a common land, and I think you got asked permission to dig there, but there's bottles all over the surface. The badgers dig them out, Dave. That's why I've not been, but the badgers dig them out. Rodney Cook Memorial have just said in the chat, we have a picture of Dave eating the last piece of cake. I think if you go to rodneycookmemorial.co.uk under gallery 2022 weekender, there's a picture of me and you, and there's one of you eating cake, and I'm going like this. You've seen that photo.
One more thing to mention before we bring Nigel onto the show is I may have been a bit preemptive last week and told you all about the Eagle-Eye DJ. Did I mention I was in the queue with David Beckham? I watched the Air Force One.
Jesus.
Get metal detecting, man. Get a life. Anyway, moving on. What was I saying then? Oh, yes. I was a bit preemptive when we were talking about the new Big Detecting Show mailing list, which will have, we're basically sending out all the information on the show, plus competitions, plus special offers, which are directly related to the mailing list. The mailing list, all GDPR, etc., etc. Go to thebigdetectiveshow.com and add yourself to the mailing list. I was preemptive last week. I don't know how many people actually signed up last week, but Adrian didn't actually make it live until
Tuesday. I didn't do it on Monday because of the Queen's thing.
So my apologies. If you did sign up last week, I don't think the information would have been stored. If you could do it now, if you are interested, and we will, you'll be added to the list. Anyway, I think
we've shown it. No.
Do what now? Yeah, go on.
Sorry, Nigel.
So technical. Hold on. Let me just get the actual producer to do it.
So go to the Big Detecting Show. You see that, can't you, Dave?
Yes,
and see these two nice men. Click subscribe here. And these are the sort of things we've given away in the past. A metal detector. We gave away a legend. Composite cleaning stuff. I
can't say anything. You've just, it's just the same page of me and you.
No, you know why? I've done it as one of those. Hang on. I've done it as one of those opening new window, and I don't really want that, do I? So I will do this. So basically, these are the sort of things we give away. So we've given away hats, Garrett boxes, detecting innovations, finds identified, all that malarkey. All you need to do is put your email address, contact number, and we do ask what brand or machine you use, only because if we get offer on Nocta stuff and you're not interested because you've got an Equinox or whatever, it's not going to be relevant. So it saves our time and it saves us spamming you load of gumph. So that's all it was. Sorry. Thank you, Dave. Move on.
Thank you, Adrian. So yeah, pop over there, sign yourself up. We'll give all the information on guests, who's coming on the show, when they're coming on the show, and any other information that we think is relevant to you. So without further ado, shall we bring Nigel onto the show? Nigel, good evening. Sorry to keep you waiting. We've been rambling on.
No problem. Good evening, chaps. How are you?
Hi, Nigel.
All the better for speaking to you. Thank you. Obviously, we had to postpone the show 2 weeks ago, sadly, but thank you for coming on tonight.
Yeah.
We've certainly been looking forward to speaking to him, haven't we, Adrian?
Very much so. Very much so. Yes. Yes. This is the Detectorists on paper, isn't it, Dave? It isn't, but it's interesting. It is interesting for us.
It is, because there's been a lot of books written, and we'll obviously get a little bit more in depth in a bit, Nigel. There's been a lot of things written, obviously magazines and such like, but this is the first book that I can think of that's been wrote in the manner that you've written in it. That made no sense to me when I said it.
I think what I liked about the idea behind it was that it's not just because I'm an author and a journalist, but it's not just me going and looking from the outside at what this world is like, and then for a few minutes or a few hours or whatever, and then coming back and writing about it. It was actually me immersing myself in the world of detecting, actually becoming a detectorist, and writing about it in real time. What it was like to just start out from about 14 months ago, from absolutely nothing, and describe the development of my involvement in the hobby and what I learned about the hobby, but also about myself and about detectorists, about other people. It's really about detectorists I met. I think it's up to other people to see what it's about, but
and the soap opera that is metal detecting.
Yeah. And I've learned a hell of a lot, about other people and what a great hobby it is.
So how did this all originally start out, Nigel? Because obviously you're a travel writer for remind me.
Well,
I've got to say the wrong paper.
I'm a journalist basically, and I worked for a long time. I was on the staff of the Daily Telegraph, but I work for other publications as well now because I'm freelance. But for probably the last certainly 25 years, I've been traveling around the world basically and writing about it. And of course, when lockdown came, suddenly I couldn't do that anymore. So what does a travel writer do when they can't travel? And I had to think about that one. And then I thought, well, maybe I could travel in my own backyard, as it were, in the places around where I live. But how do you do that? And I remember that about 10 years ago, I encountered a metal detectorist just very close to where I live, and we had a bit of a chat. And I thought, that's an interesting idea, because it's traveling locally, but it's also traveling in time. It's traveling into the ground, and it's traveling into history. And so that's how the idea started. That's where the germ sort of grew. That's where where the whole idea started from.
It's interesting because it is like a time machine, the hobby. When you go out there, you might find a ring pull from 1982, which is a bit of history, and then you might stumble upon a stator or a crotal bell, and it does bring it all back through. So you're physically not travelling there. Well, not yet. The Mind Lab machine in 2029 will actually take you back, but that would be cool. Yeah. But you're right. It's quite. I've never thought of it like that before. You are actually travelling back in time when you walk across that field. And
what I realised also that I hadn't made this connection until I started doing it, but it linked into the fact that ever since I was a kid, I've always enjoyed historical objects, like seeing them in museums, and to me, they always told a story. And I got a thrill out of seeing it. I thought, God, I can't believe that. It's 500 years old, or that's 1,500 years old, or whatever. And somebody held that, or that belonged to somebody, or somebody did something with that. And then suddenly I'm finding these things myself. And that makes it even more exciting, So I definitely got hooked very quickly, yeah.
I still love coming home. When my kids they're teenagers, grown up now, I used to love coming home and giving them something in their hand, saying, open your hand. They just go, what's that? So it's about 2,000 years old. And they went, how do you know that? And I said, well, because I do know it's that old. And you're the second person ever in 2,000 years to touch that. And it's like, really? And that moment of boredom and Dad, you're a geek, to wow, that is cool. So
and then back again.
Yeah, that lasts about 30 seconds. And then they go on their phone. But yeah, it's something which how long was it, Nigel, till you found something? Because obviously you wrote about books, you travelled around, you spoke to different people, which we'll get onto. How long was it till you actually found something where you thought, wow, that's got a bit of history in it? And what was it?
What, found something personally, you mean? I mean,
yeah.
Because the first time I went out was down in Kent with Chris, the brilliant Chris Rogers.
Never heard of him.
No idea. No, he's not on next week.
So
he's not next week. Yeah.
So I go out with Chris, and I don't find anything, but he finds a Tudor buckle, which is, not so, it's good, but it's pretty run of the mill for him. But to me, dead exciting. So that was the very first time I went out, and that was really brilliant. And that was what got me hooked, I think, because actually, when I went out with Chris on that one occasion, it was only going to be just for one newspaper article. I was going to write about metal detecting just the once for that newspaper article. When I went out with Chris and we found this buckle, and then also because we got on really well, and I thought he was an excellent man. And that was what gave me the idea to do the book. I thought, blimey, there's so much in this hobby. There's so much to discover. And that's how it started. So it was with that Tudor buckle, but I didn't find it, I have to say.
Did he give you one of his machines?
No.
No, to use?
No. Well, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
I was going to say, he just gave you a spade.
Sorry, mate, that's what you mean. Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was what was it? A Gold Max.
Oh right, yeah. XP Gold Max, which he still loves, and is a very good machine.
Yeah, and I did find something, a little Tudor kind of pin thing as well on that occasion.
Brilliant,
so,
brilliant.
Yeah,
you found more than Dave. Yeah, we'll get on to what Detector. You've obviously bought a machine. We'll get onto that.
I did.
What do your Are you married or got a partner? Or
got a partner, yeah.
Yeah. What do they think, and your friends, when suddenly, because you've like you say, you travelled all over the world, you could have taken up flamenco dancing, or I don't know, Cuban dance or whatever, or some cooking paella every night, and then suddenly something that you've written about,
we did talk paella last night, actually.
All right.
You realise he is a professional flamenco dancer, Adrian. It's in his biography.
And paella chef.
No, because she's not part of Spanish, you see, or Spanish family. So we have good food here. Anyway, yeah, sorry, yeah.
So did they start getting concerned that you were having some sort of COVID breakdown, that you're actually getting right into this
late middle-age crisis? Definitely. Yeah.
So you sort of thought, I quite like this.
Actually, it's not. I mean, I'm tongue-in-cheek about that, because actually, when you start explaining, certainly, because none of my friends or family or anything had ever done metal detecting, but when you start explaining a bit about what you've found and the people you've met, they get interested, and they're amazed at the smallest things. So I found like an old. Well, I'm trying to find it now, like this. I found that buckle. That was one of my early finds. That buckle.
Oh yeah, nice.
In my garden, which is no big deal, but my mates who never done it would sort of they picked it up and they poured over it and they turned it over, and suddenly you can see how they're getting interested and how they can understand what you're on about. Yeah.
A lot of people don't think we find anything at all. Some people don't, but
no, that was one of my. That was one of my sort of prejudices, if you like. That I thought it would be. It would be about being in the outdoors and being with other people, but basically you don't find much. And
Dave doesn't. Well, he does.
Well,
you do.
I still don't really, but no, I do find stuff. But I'm always with people who find amazing stuff. So
yeah. What part of the country are you in?
Hampshire.
Right. Okay. So yeah,
it's good. It's a good area around here. There's lots of stuff. Yeah.
So have you going back to the book again? Obviously, how on earth did you plan? Because I haven't read all of it. Because there's so much stuff you could talk about. I mean, we're only on tonight for just over an hour, but whenever I go to the club I'm a member of, or we meet at a rally, me and Dave will talk about cake and alcohol briefly, but we talk about the hobby, we talk about machines, we talk about the people, we talk about green waste. How on earth did you plan to structure the book as you did, or did you keep changing it every time you were sort of putting it together?
Well, in order to sell the idea to the publisher, you have to have a structure.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be largely fantasy, but you still have to pretend that you know what you're doing and you know what you're going to do. So,
which is very much like me and Adrian doing the show.
Yeah.
So producers saying that's not correct, Dave.
But yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, you have to pretend, you have to give them a structure and say, this is what I'm going to do. And actually, I think the structure that I gave them, I kind of half stuck to, but basically I didn't know what was going to happen, because you don't know what you're going to find. You don't know who you're going to meet. You don't know what avenues you're suddenly going to start disappearing down because somebody's given you an idea or told you about something or other. So it had to have a structure, but within the structure, it's quite loose, because I told it as it was. I mean, I just told it in real time about what happened, who I met, what I found or didn't find. But as I say, but within that, there were certain things that I wanted to make sure that I wrote about.
Yeah, and everyone can find out that if they buy the book by scanning that QR code on your phone, will take you to the Amazon store. I'm not sure if and someone said earlier it's blurred. I don't think it is. Well, it isn't on my screen, but
if you go to arkmdmag.com and you will see the latest post is the Accidental Detectorist review, and it's all the information on there of how to buy the book.
And we don't get any money from that at all. It's just nice having Nigel on the show.
We got a pencil.
Oh, did you?
Did you? No.
I was going to say, that got me jealous then. I didn't get a pencil. Sorry, Dave. I've asked lots of questions. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah. When you decided the hobby was something that you wanted to participate in more, what machine did you actually first buy?
A Quest Q30.
Oh, Adrian. Hey, I've got one of them behind me. No idea how to use it.
I'm friends with Chris Rogers, and he's got one. I've got one. Dave's got one. Dave's got my one, actually, or his son's got my one. And there is a snobbery in this hobby. So how an 18-year-old wouldn't dream of walking into a nightclub with a Matalan or the Primark or whatever. Well, it might change a bit now. It's got to be a branded polo top, and it's got to cost at least 40-50 quid. Unfortunately, in the hobby, it does help if you've got an expensive machine sometimes, but we've all seen people. Dave, who are those guys who had that old XP machine that was running at 4 hertz, and they found the gold? Your friends.
Steve Tom. No.
Well, they had like £200 or £300 machines.
Joe Cania and Mark Ambleton.
Yeah.
The Leak Frith Gold Forecord.
Yeah, they had machines running 4 hertz, which is, you're not going to pick much up. Well, not unless it's iron or deep. And it was just goes to show. And the Quest Q30, a lot of people saying, oh, it's Chinese and I don't like the colour of it and all that. You know, we're all using iPhones. They're made in America, designed in China, same as the Quest. And it's one of the best machines I've ever had. And I've had a few, haven't I, Dave? And I've got a load as well. But there is this snobbery in the hobby that you've got to have the best machine. And if you haven't, people will look at you. Some might laugh. Some might not think you're going to find anything. And did you find that when you purchased that machine? Sort of talk first.
Well, I think people have been polite about it. But the thing is, part of the reason I got it was because, well, first of all, I didn't want to go in over my head, like get a machine that's too sophisticated because I didn't know what I was doing. So it'd be a waste of money. And also, I'm a bit of a technical idiot as well, which I describe in the book. And I thought, well, I don't want anything too complicated. And really, the book is not about kind of finding amazing stuff. It's about just gently introducing myself to the hobby. So I thought I'll get this I'll get this machine, and it's all it's still the only one I know, except there is a story about a deus which I could come to later, which is in the book. But and so I've got nothing to compare it with, but I'm very faithful to it now. Although having said that, I am thinking of maybe in a while upgrading, but I don't know what to yet. But
well, yeah, I mean, most people buy a Garrett Ace 150, 250, which is, you know, a machine that lots of people have found stuff with, and Quest is different. I've found some good stuff with my Quest. I found a gold ring with it, with a beautiful gemstone in it. Wow. Took a photo, went to show my friend, and the stone fell out in the middle of the field, which I'll never find again. But it's just nice. But it's strange, isn't it? Because it's a bit, I don't know, I'm trying to explain what it's like. It's almost like getting your first car. You know, some kids' parents buy them like top of the range, brand new car, and then some kids just get them an old banger because they know you're going to ruin it or not like driving or whatever. But yeah, so when you first got the Quest, were you surprised how can I put it? It's not a complicated machine, but it's not a really easy machine. It's not, you can turn it on and go, but have you understood all the settings like discrimination and
not really? But the thing is, I probably wouldn't anyway, because I'm a bit of an idiot like that, you see. But right. I mean, I can make it run. I mean, I'm confident that I use it sort of 3/4 correctly, probably. No.
Confidence is key. You've always got to be confident.
I'm probably deluding myself, but at least I feel that I'm doing it the right. You know, I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, going back to like passing your driving test and cars, it is like cars, isn't it? Oh, mine can go this deep. Oh yeah, well mine only weighs this much. Oh, mine can go this small. I can get this for mine. It's like performance exhausts and all that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you.
Well, I should say my first car was a knackered old Hillman Avenger. So is that?
Oh,
and it was black and orange as well, which is a bit like the Quest Q30. So,
Adrian, mine was worse. Mine was an Austin Allegro.
No, Hillman Avengers were bad because Hillman Avengers actually had a plastic strip on the back door to open and close it. They didn't even have a handle, if I remember rightly. And they rusted like hell.
They did rust because mine fell to bits, basically, yeah.
My first car was a Mini Cooper S. I was 14 and I didn't realise it was worth lots of money then, and they weren't. And then I went to a Triumph Herald 1360 convertible, then a Rover P6 V8, and then a Golf GTI. So I had some random cars there, and an MGB GT.
So you've always been a midlife crisis chav road user, then?
No, just confused. But out of all the cars, my favourite one was the Triumph Herald because it was fun and easy. And going back to metal detectors, you know, I've got a lot of different machines, and I will take them out if I want to go out for a short detect. I might take one that's heavy and uses lots of battery. If I'm going on the beach, I'll take another one. If I'm going out for 8, 9, 10 hours, I'll take one that's light. And you know, if you did have the opportunity to buy all different machines, they're there, they're all there. But at the end of the day, you've got to go over it, haven't you? Like everyone says, you've got to walk over it. You've got to have the right permission, and you've got to be in the right frame of mind. I think that is the most important thing.
That's interesting.
Because Paul McKenna, whether you like him or don't like him, who is actually a friend of Chris Rogers, bizarrely. And it's Paul McKenna, isn't it? The man,
the hypnotist.
Yeah. He carried out a social experiment about 10 years ago where he found people who were very morning, and they're like, right, and morning, hi, people like that. And he would put like £10 on the pavement on the way of them walking to work. And the ones who are very down and miserable, half pint empty, would not notice it, not pick it up. The positive ones who were happy, eye contact, looking around, alert, found the money. And I think if you go into the field, because we all have like go detecting to chill out. Whether you don't, you chill out because you turn off. But when you turn off, you just need to think, I'm going to find something good today. I'm going to find something good today.
Your social experiment there, metal detectorists, be it half full or half empty, would still find that because we're always looking at the floor.
Some aren't though, and some swing the coil like that, and some, low and slow and take your time. But yeah, I think if you go out there, Jules from Treasure Hunting magazine, he's the same, and we've spoken about this before. There's sometimes I've gone out detecting, and I just not felt it. Just I don't know what it is. It's a nice day, got a lovely permission, got a nice machine. Just don't feel it. So you only do 2 or 3 hours and come home, and you probably don't find it much.
That's something I try and go into in the book, because people started suggesting that to me, and I thought, and then I started discovering it myself, feeling it myself, and I thought, am I really feeling this? I used to think, if I'm not concentrating and feeling positive, I'm not going to find anything. And then, lo and behold, I would really concentrate and I'd find stuff, and I think that proves to me what the point I'm just trying to make. But I did go out with a guy called, do you know Chris Holmes up in Norfolk?
No.
I think he's got a YouTube channel called Discriminator, I think.
Oh yeah, Discriminator, Chris. Yeah.
Well, not anymore. The Discriminator. We
don't know his last name.
Yeah, he had us found in the ground. I saw him. I was chatting with Chris at Detectful the other week. He's been on the show a few times. He's had to change his YouTube channel. We won't go into that, but
you know who I mean. And Chris who's a brilliant, another one of the brilliant people I've met, I have to say, who just opened their worlds up to me and was so generous in sharing their knowledge and so on. But I went out with him. Well, I met him at this weekender in Norfolk, and then I kept in touch with him, and then he invited me up to one of his permissions, and he was finding a lot that day, and I wasn't finding anything, and I felt a bit of an idiot, to be honest. I mean, I hadn't been doing it for very long at that point, but I just felt there was something wrong with me. You know what I mean? I wasn't finding stuff, and I could see he could hardly believe that I wasn't finding anything. And then we had this conversation at the end of the day in which he said, maybe it's to do with just where you are and what you're feeling about the land you're on at this point. And then he gave this example of he'd gone up into Lincolnshire with this friend of his, and they'd been detecting on this field that was on Ermine Street, or just off Ermine Street, where there's a lot of Roman stuff to be found. And Chris said that day he found virtually nothing, and his mate was finding loads of stuff, and his mate couldn't understand why Chris wasn't finding stuff. And then they had a conversation. They decided maybe it is to do with the familiarity or the relationship you have with that field at that time, or your your mental state, and all those things come into it, I think.
Yeah,
you can't kind of prove it, but
no, it's. I strongly believe if you go out positive, you'll find something positive. I've at least this year, half dozen times. My dad passed away just over a year ago. My mum passed away a few months ago, and the day after the dad died, I went out detecting with my mate. Just because I wanted to get out, there's nothing you can do, sit there morbid. And you walk through the field and you say, come on, Dad, come on, Mum, I'm going to find something good today. And then I spoke to Gary Cook about this. 9 times out of 10, within a few minutes, you get a target. I'm not greedy. I don't say it religiously all the time. You get a good target and you'll put it up and it's probably hammered or a nice little crotal bell or something. Just lifts you. And as soon as you do find that, it eagers you on. It's a bit like fishing, You catch one fish and then you catch
there's a comment from Digger Dawn. Totally true. She travelled 1,000 miles and spent 6 days detecting while she was stressed when her YouTube channel was stolen, and all she found was 1 coin.
Yeah. I remember the stop. That is a show. That is a show. Dawn's YouTube channel.
I've already I'm waiting for her to respond to my message to come on the show about that.
Yeah, I know Dawn. She's in the book.
Pictures or?
No, I met her at Detectiveville last year. What?
Sorry, I was joking. You met her at Detectiveville last year. Oh, yes, so you went to Detectiveville last year?
Badminton. Yeah, was it Gloucestershire? Yeah.
Yeah. There's a bit of research.
Yeah, that was. I mean, I've just been doing it a few months then, but I went. I found sort of nice little. Well, I thought it was nice. A little what was it? Dress fastener. I found. That's from.
Oh, that's nice.
Detectiveville. last year, yeah. And I met Dawn then. We had a nice chat.
Is that the year she was drinking hand sanitizer, Dave?
No, that was Spring Detectable.
Oh, that was Spring Detectable.
That's when she was drunk on hand sanitizer.
Yeah. She wasn't drinking it, Nigel.
We don't speak about that.
No.
Imagine now, Nigel, putting your glass of red wine down and not realizing there's an automatic hand sanitizer dispenser over it. So whenever you put it down, it sprinkles some hand sanitizer into your red wine, and then you're drinking away, not realizing what you're actually drinking. Dawn.
Right.
Yeah. And that must have been
That's what she's selling us anyway. I personally think that she was a bit of a lush because we found out the back of the toilets later on.
Dawn's just said it was by accident. Yeah, right. No, I remember it. Regton's had loads of hand sanitizers for COVID.
Had.
Yeah. Yeah, bizarre. Yes, where were we? What were we talking about, Dave? What was the last question?
Back to the book. So obviously you've met a lot of people, you've been to a lot of places, you've done a hell of a lot of research. And constructing the book, obviously for you as a journalist and a writer, would have been a lot easier than it would have been. I mean, I've wrote a book and the structure's, looking back at it now, the structure's completely awful. Adrian, I'm sure, would, when he writes his book as well, get into the structure. But the content, how did you decide on the content? What's in there now? Did you have like a number of other pieces that aren't in the book because you decided on this? Is there a lot of things that have been left out from the original?
Oh, yeah, probably. I mean, I've got a load of notes that didn't quite make it into the book for one or two reasons, sometimes legal reasons, actually. There's also a story I wanted to include, but it was to do with somebody's daughter dying, and I didn't, in the end, it was too sensitive and I didn't want to do that. So, yeah, but basically, there were because I wrote it as a detectorist or as a newbie, a novice detectorist, somebody learning to be a detectorist. But of course, I'm also a journalist, so I also wanted to write a bit more objectively about metal detecting and the history of it, and for example, who invented metal detectors. And there's no one answer to that, I don't think. But I suggest
four.
I like the sound.
Yeah, it's true though. I like the way you say that because sadly, in our hobby, a lot of the press and media focus on the negatives. A night hawker found in Kent has been imprisoned for 2 years and his metal detector destroyed because he was night hawking. Yet a Rodney Cook rally that raises over £80,000 for cancer in 2.5 days, that you won't hear about that. Do you know what I mean? And occasionally you might get sort of Brian and Dave found Ethel's wedding ring that she's had for 90 years. You might get that in your local press, but the hobby does a lot of good in charity, mental health, the economy as well, because a lot of detectors, the distributors in the UK rely on it, and you don't get to hear that. And your book, from what I've briefly read, until it gets to the end and says we're all a bunch of idiots dressed in camo, it's something good for the hobby, and I think if, the more people read it who aren't metal detectorists, will realise we aren't a bunch of camo sort of rolly smoking bearded men in the middle of a field trying to hunt for treasure. So did you your initial thoughts before you joined the hobby, what did you think when you saw that bearded man in camo in the field? Did you just think, oh, he's metal detecting, or what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good question, because I think I start off the book writing about meeting this detectorist who I mentioned earlier, who in a field near where I live. That's about 10 years ago. And at that point, I was very snobby about it. And I just thought they were a bunch of nerds who never found anything, they kind of tramped about. But I think a big game changer, and you probably agree with this, is the series, the TV series Detectorists, which, I mean, you might not agree, but I've yet to meet a detectorist who doesn't like it. Is that right? Or
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I've never met one, but I've received emails from them. And I think these are the people who buy a new car and find a fault with it. So,
Right.
yeah, they're not, well, I wouldn't say a true detectorist. Someone, you're right, actually. Everyone I've spoken to, some people who don't have good luck, they have bad luck all the time. But yeah, no one's ever said, I hate this hobby. No, you're right.
mean, but people who, yeah, so watching the TV series, that got me into the whole idea of how interesting it could be, but also, you know, just to be out in nature, out in landscape, apart from anything, and then the gentle humor of it. So that kind of started pushing me in the direction of, well, you know, maybe metal detecting could be interesting. But then I think talking to my friends who didn't do it, you know, who'd never done it, they thought it was a bit weird to get involved in it. But then they're these sort of middle-aged men who kind of force themselves into lycra and go cycling and stuff like that, and that's no less weird than going metal detecting. And
it's a lot weirder. Yeah. And you're a hindrance to people on the highway.
Yeah.
One of the chapters of your book, Nigel, is I think Adrian's got to absolutely love it when he gets to this point.
No, I know what you're going to
say. Badges with spades.
Yeah.
So, for Adrian's benefit, what's the general gist of badges?
Yeah, it's the whole chapter about badges. No, it's I went out with this. I met this bloke in Sussex called Daryl Holter, who's an ex.
The PC.
Yeah,
yeah,
and he used to be in charge of heritage crime in Sussex. They've merged it now with rural crime, so he doesn't do that anymore. But he's set up this organisation called the Sussex Heritage Community, I think it's called. So he's trying to get like-minded people together, detectorists, archaeologists, local historians, to try and push best practice, you know, how to be, you know, detect responsibly and so on. And it was him that came out with that phrase, badges with spades, because he was showing me photographs of various sort of heritage crimes that have been committed in Sussex on his laptop. We met in that pub on Beachy Head, and one of the pictures. So he showed me things like lead stolen from a war memorial, and tiles nicked off a roof, and stained glass windows stolen from a church. And then he showed me a picture of this scheduled monument, which I can't say where it is, but somewhere in Sussex. And there were all these square holes that you could see that had been dug and then filled in. And it was obviously the work of Nighthawks. And he said, he looked at me and he said, "You can't tell me that's the work of badgers with spades." That was his phrase. So the chapter I wrote in the book is about, you know, the problem with the tiny minority of Nighthawks and the need to be responsible as detectorists and understand your obligations, and the whole thing about the Portable Antiquities Scheme and the Treasure Act and all that, which runs through the book. Incidentally, it's a kind of theme, but yeah.
You have looked a lot at the Finance Liaison Officers and the Portable Antiquities Scheme throughout the book as well. How did you get to that part of the process? Did you obviously meet up with FLOs and such like?
Yeah, but there are two in Hampshire. There are two. Well, actually, they've stopped it now. I think there's only they were job sharing until quite recently. That's Jenny Durrant and Simon Maslin, I think, the FLOs in Hampshire. So I met both of them, and I took some of my finds to record them earlier this year, because I wanted to write about that whole process and how it works, and so that was really interesting. So I met them, and so in the book I write about taking my finds to Jenny and her going through them and confirming what I already knew about them, basically. And I also met Michael Lewis, who's the head of the PAS at the British Museum. So I went to the British Museum and met Michael, and that was interesting.
Yeah, it's a very interesting process, but it would be a lot nicer if it was sped up and automated more with modern technology. There's still lots of bits of paper and flows. I don't think people realise how much work they're under. In my county in Essex, the coroner has actually had to employ someone now specifically dealing with treasure because they're about 2 or 3 years behind. And this young girl, bless her, I emailed her the other day because I've got something going through the treasure process. And I said, how's things going? She said, we're just about to start reviewing items now, hopefully early next year. And I'm like, and it's already been over 3 years. It's such a shame because if they could integrate some kind of electronic system where you were almost like if you're putting in a claim for car insurance, you can all see the progress. So it's sort of with the flow, with the treasure committee, with the coroner, etc. Whereas at the moment you hand it over and then you just wait and hear, and it's all via email, and I think that does put some people off, which is sad in a way.
But doesn't it also show how successful we are as detectorists, because we're finding so much?
We are finding so much history, but sadly, the finances and resources aren't there to manage it. Come on, I nearly said John Major. That would be totally wrong. That's going back a few years. The new Prime Minister and
Liz Truss.
Liz Truss, that's the lady. But yeah, you're right, Nigel. I mean, Treasure Hunting magazine last year, sort of coming out of COVID, had so many people submitting finds. It was absolutely crazy. Jules, bless him, was working, and it's so hard because someone will find something which to them is amazing, yet there's something else which is probably more amazing. So you're trying to fit it in the magazine, and you're only limited to a certain amount of pages, even though it goes on Facebook a lot. But then if you put one person's thing on, you got to put everyone's thing on. So it's quite a hard thing to do. But the whole flow process is quite interesting, and I think what the NCMD have got it all on their website now, their new website, which you met the NCMD, didn't you? I understand.
Well, I had dealings with them initially when I first started out. They put me on to Chris Rogers, because
how did you find all the people in the book? Did you go to one source, or did someone say this, or did you go on YouTube?
That's a good question, actually. I mean, locally, I hooked up with a guy called Pete Welch, who runs Weekend Wanderers in Hampshire, who's an excellent man and incredibly knowledgeable and helpful. So Pete was after Chris, Pete was my first port of call, and then I don't know, it just you just get to kind of meet people, don't you? And it just sort of snowballs. And and then Treasure Hunting. I was reading Treasure Hunting magazine, and that was the first thing that blew me away. When you look at this magazine, what incredible finds people are making every day. I'm looking at this stuff and I'm thinking I'll never find stuff like that, which I haven't actually, mostly. So even now, I was really blown away by that. And then I saw this brilliant article in Treasure Hunting by a guy called Mark Vine down in Dorset, he's got this permission on this really old manor house down there, and it was such a well-written article, and they found so much wonderful stuff that I just contacted him via Jules, out cold called, just said, read that article, really interested, and then we got together and I went down another of his permissions, this Jacobean manor house in Dorset, and had some great finds down there. So it was just me picking up on stuff and running with it, And like you mentioned Cy Finds earlier, I went out with Chris Rogers. He got in touch and he said, well, we're going down to Portsmouth Harbour and we're going to do some mudlarking at low tide. He's going out with Cy Finds, and would I like to come along? So I did that, and that was brilliant. Yeah,
mudlarking, that to me is quite interesting and exciting as well. I've done it a few times, but I've actually messaged Cy today because hopefully we're meeting up around my way soon to do some bottle digging and malarkey stuff. But
yeah,
it's hard work for him going across all that mud in the wind and rain. And
he was in his element. He had these big waders on, and he had this dry bag, and he loved it. Yeah, it was great.
I'm actually hoping to stand on the foreshore of the Thames next week. I know I can't touch, but I'm hoping to look.
You're going to London next week, aren't you, Dave?
Back London Town, British Museum, Petrie Museum, Natural History. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Northerner, you'll be kicking off about the beer prices, mate. I'll tell you.
Be kicking off about the beer quality as well. It's going to be dire, isn't it?
You better bring your Webster's and Tetley beer down here, and then you can drink that in your
hotel room. Do that.
Yeah.
Hotel
but electricity's free. We've got free electricity down here.
No way.
Yeah, all day long. It's 24 hours.
We've still got internet everywhere, here, mate.
We don't have dial-up modems down here, Dave. It's all Wi-Fi, mate. So you're going to enjoy it. Oh, you've on your phone. Tell me when you get down here. Hopefully, and I'll try and be on the show. Chris Rogers is on next week, isn't he? With Tom.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, right. I'll be watching that then. Okay.
Yeah. Tom, lovely guy. Tom, really nice guy. Actually, I've forgotten his name. Scottish.
Otis Arms. Tom.
Otis Arms.
Dempster.
Yeah, Dempster. He had the dog with 2 legs messed up, not working, which sadly passed.
Dog on wheels.
Yeah. He told me a very funny story about his new dog. He, his dog had wheels and used to carry the spade for him. Sadly, it got put down or passed away, and he's got another dog, similar sort of Alsatian. And he didn't tell one of his friends, and he met up with one of his friends just after his other dog had died. And his new dog jumped out of the car, and his friend looked at the dog and went, "You've mended it." And it just made me laugh because it's not just like you've mended it. And he'll no doubt mention that on the show. But I'd love to get on, hopefully, because where I am next week, it'll be 10 o'clock at night when we go live. But I'll try and get a good.
Where will that be, Adrian?
I will sadly be in Cyprus. So sorry, 30 degrees.
What area of Cyprus will that be?
Near Paya. Do you know that, Nigel? Paya?
No, I don't, I'm afraid. No.
It's up from the Coral Bay, which is it's not near Paphos, it's more out in the hills. So got a villa out there. So I hopefully have good Wi-Fi, and I'd love to come on the show sitting in my pants. Can't detect out there though because it's illegal, and I'll get put in prison.
Is it illegal?
But anyway, yeah. But you can there's so much history out there. It's illegal, which is again with this hobby. You might have noticed that at Detectable and Rodney. You didn't go to Rodney Cook. No, you went to Rodney Cook. You didn't go to Detectable this year.
Not this year. No.
For different cultures, different people from different countries coming over. A lot of it is predominantly because of our laws enabling people, fortunately, to metal detect responsibly, and we have got so much history. So, when was the first time actually you got with a crowd of true detectorists, Nigel?
Oh, probably. Well, I went out with the Weekend Wanderers down in Hampshire with Pete Welch, so that was an early. I think I did my own garden, and then my first sort of public outing was with a couple of contacts I made locally. And then after that, I went out on sort of these digs that Pete Welch does usually on weekends in Hampshire and Oxfordshire. But then I went to a weekender up in Norfolk, which is where I met Chris Holmes, the found in the ground guy. Stayed overnight there, and a hell of a lot of stuff was found that weekend. That was a beautiful place up in Norfolk's so rich, though, isn't it? It's like the county where more stuff than anywhere else is found, isn't it?
Yeah, Norfolk, Cambridge. That's there's a lot of people talking in the chat about things. John Clayton, very nice person who's watched us a lot of the time. He said, "Is there a signed copy of Nigel's book, Gore, going?" Oh, what's that mean?
Gore giveaway?
Oh yeah,
no.
No. You can buy it though if you scan that. You can
buy it,
scan that. Gareth, you win a lot of competitions, I think.
I think when we send our first newsletter out, we'll have links to the book in the newsletter, Adrian.
Yeah, we'll have it. And
we like Nigel.
If Nigel does his signature, takes a photo and emails it to us, we can get some sort of transfer done or something.
Yeah, we can put it on the book and then we can draw over it dead hard, and then we can, so it'll be like signed copy.
Do you still get transfers?
I don't know.
Remember that my mum and dad used to buy me like this fold-out thing with a sheet of transfers when I was on holiday. Be like a jungle scene.
What about our thing with the blue stuff on it?
Fuzzy felt.
No, the book where you had the blue thing in and you wrote and it come out underneath and like a blue ink paper.
NCR.
I don't know.
Carbon copy paper. You used to put it in typewriters. So if you needed two copies of the letter, carbon copy. Yeah, blue. My dad used to have that.
What's a typewriter?
I've got one upstairs. Nice one. Carmen Gear. Nice one. I need to get
all right, Dolly Parton.
Yeah. I'm going to start typing soon because what's the man? Forrest Gump, Tom Hanks. He only uses a typewriter, doesn't use a computer. And I think how lovely. Makes you think before you type. If social media was like that, it'd save a lot of trouble for people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Bring back faxes.
You also, I have to say it because he's there in the chat. Just sitting there lurking. Gary Cook, you met Gary Cook, and he's included in a book too.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Did you go out and about with Gary?
Yeah, well, and Dave, but I wanted to write about what it's like to make an extraordinary find. Dave Crisp found the Froome Hoard. Mm-hmm. So what the hell is that like? He doesn't like to talk about it.
Never heard about that.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't like talking about it.
So I got, funnily enough, it was just a coincidence. Somebody told me that in the next village to me lives this archaeologist, and this is like in about January, February time. And anyway, I eventually got put in touch with her. She's called Katie Hines, and she was the FLO in Wiltshire when Dave found the Froome Hoard.
All right.
And so I got chatting to her, and she said, "You need to talk to Dave Crisp because he's an excellent bloke, and he tells the story very well about finding the Froome Hoard." You know, so I got in touch with him.
Never heard the story myself.
No. Well, I tell it in the book, but I got it anyway. So I arranged to go and see him, and then when we were there, Gary turns up, and then we go out. So we meet up for a couple of hours at Dave's house, and we're chatting about the hoard and all other stuff as well to do with archaeologists and that sort of antagonism between archaeologists and detectorists, which is a whole other subject that I write about in the book, because it opens up all sorts of other things, doesn't it, to do with the class system and snobbery and international snobbery and stuff like that. And Dave and Gary are very interesting on that. And then Dave says, "Well, should we go and do some detecting?" I said, "Well, that would be great, yeah." And so Dave suggests this permission he's got on the North Wessex Downs, which he knows has got a lot of Roman on it, and I'm really excited because I've not found any Roman coins. So we go out there, and I love that landscape because I know it quite well, Avebury, and it's a very mystical landscape, and so I was excited just to be in the landscape apart from anything. And then we go out there, and then they're finding all this Roman coins, well, grots, but nevertheless they're finding them, and I don't find anything. I get a musket ball, and at the end of the day they're very diplomatic with me. So Dave says to me, "Well, if you didn't walk over it, you didn't walk over it, which is fair enough. But I mean, I managed not to walk over it at all, and they managed to walk over it about 20 times between them." But so at the very end of the day, Gary gives me this Roman coin, which is really nice, which he'd found, and I said, "Well, look, if you don't mind, I'll pretend I found it myself." We won't say anything, but I put it in the book.
Did he let you have a go of his Deus?
No.
Oh.
Well, I'm sure he would have done if I'd asked.
Yeah. Well,
did he have pants on?
He had. It was odd actually because it was really cold winter day, and he had these weird sort of brief swimming trunk things type on. That's
oh, like dungarees knitted, short knee dungarees knitted. Yeah, he wears those a lot. Rainbow ones. His wife's not watching, I don't think. You said earlier on that you used a different machine from the Quest. What was that? It was a Deus, I think you said.
Yeah.
What were your first thoughts when you got hold of that shaft in your hand? Because it is very light.
Well, the thing was that this was down in Dorset, and at this Jacobean Manor House place. It was amazing. And so it was Mark Vine, this excellent bloke and friend now, who really helped me a lot, and his mates Mike Clark and John. And they turn up, and they're like legendary detectorists in Dorset. They found so much stuff. And Mike says, "Oh, you can borrow my Deus." And I'm pleased about that, but I'm also apprehensive about it because I've never used one. And it's like suddenly talking about cars, it's like me getting out of my Hillman Avenger and being shown a supercar and said, "We'll get in that and drive that." And I don't know how to drive it, properly. And am I going to do it justice? So I spent the first half an hour trying to work out what's really going on. However, I did find a hammered with it.
Oh, well done! Excellent,
fantastic.
Brilliant.
Sorry,
what hammered was that?
Oh, it's a Lizzie. It's a Elizabeth I silver half groat.
I bet you were excited.
Ecstatic at that.
Yeah,
it's still. I mean, I've got it. Yeah, I'll find it somewhere. I've got it here somewhere. Well, I was, but the question is, would I have found it with my Quest? I can't. Hang on. I will find it.
That's a nice book, Eyes Window, isn't it, Adrian?
Oh, can you see the book?
Is it hardback and softback, or just softback?
It's only hardback at the moment, but it'll come out in paperback. It'll come out in paperback next summer, I think.
He's lost his hammered. He's lost his hammered.
Yeah.
Dave, he's making it up. He's making it up.
Somebody found it and give it him.
I will find it. Oh, that's it. Yeah. There it is. I've got it in the bag here. It says Elizabeth I, 1583 to 1603, half groat. There you go.
Oh, well done. Ah, that's a fake one, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, you can tell by the ripple.
Yeah.
So, no, I was really chuffed with that, though, because, part of the book is about me developing a bit of a complex because I can't find a hammered. And
yeah, I have that problem.
You have. It's funny. It depends where you are. I mean, I haven't found one for probably a month or so now.
Well,
yeah, but I've been on rallies. But they're quite common around where I detect. But some people don't find them for. There's one bloke I was talking to who hasn't found one for 15. He's never found one. He's been detecting for 15 years. But it's like gold. You get this like young boy who'll buy a Garrett Ace 150, go out of his dad for one day. He was on the show when Dave or someone was, and they find a gold ring. So it's all about.
I've had four since the 4 Hammeds.
4
since the 1970s.
Well, you found them though, haven't you? So it's
40 years. It's not bad. One every 10 years.
But I was talking to Jules at Rodney Cook. Yeah, he said it took him 5 years to find a hammered, I think.
Yeah, and it's he's not very good at detecting though.
No. Another blagger.
I went out with him once. In Epping, pasture in Epping, right near a pub where William Shakespeare stayed. Alan Sugar owns a restaurant near there, and me and my mate had been over it loads of times, and we found, and there must have been a fair there because we found hundreds of pennies, old pennies, loads of them. And Jules said, "Oh, there's an interesting patch over there," and we weren't finding anything in this bit. He stayed in an area probably 15 foot by 15 foot square all day, just pulling up stuff. Absolutely, I don't know. He was pulling stuff out left, right, and centre. My mate James, he's not in the chat at the moment. He's gone to bed because he's like that. And Jules, he takes his time. He concentrates. Whereas you see a lot of people, it's all, he's like that. He takes his time. He listens to the signal, the tones, and I think that is patience. A lot of it. Because you see the thing I love about rallies is when you hear that and everyone sets off, they're all heading for the best fields which are further away. And Detectorist the other week, when everyone had gone out on the fields, I didn't tell you this, Dave, did I tell you? I went 3 miles away and then had an interview with Mind Lab, and I had to run back. Anyway, I ran back, tried out the new Manticore machine, and then I thought, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over the fields that 800 people have probably been over in the last 2 or 3 hours. I found 3 buttons and a buckle in the first field, and 800 people have been over that. And I was like, it just goes to show, doesn't it? And it's almost like trying to get the beach towel on your sun lounger at the hotel in the morning. Everyone just rushes, and they're not in the frame of mind. But I think finding hammereds, talking of hammereds, that is a lovely find, Nigel. What would be your bucket lister? What is something you really want to find? Not value-wise, but something that interests you.
Not value-wise. Well, I want to find something really older than I found. I think probably the oldest piece I've got a Viking gaming piece. I think I found in Norfolk, but something Iron Age.
A Naffadaddle one.
Exactly. It's one of them. Yeah, because I thought that's what it was, and then when I I'm trying to find it doesn't look like much anyway. You know what they look like, but when I took it to the because I looked it up on the database of finds.org.uk database, and it looked like, I thought, it's got to be that. And when I took it to the Flow here, she said, well, it could be a weight, but she said, where did you find it? And I said, Norfolk. And she said, no, it's going to be a gaming piece. So yeah, lovely. And then I think because I grew up in South Yorkshire, and I think most of those pieces were made in a place called Torksey by the Viking Great Heathen Army in the 860s, something like that. When they were overwintering there, they had nothing better to do, and they had a source of lead, and they started making those gaming pieces.
Interesting.
I think so. That was quite exciting for me to find that piece, albeit just one, because somebody found a whole set of 37 in one go, apparently.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was auctioned about 2 years ago. The articles on the RKMD mag site.
And it didn't go for a lot of money, I don't think, Dave.
No, it's like a few £1,000. I was amazed. Yeah.
I think the whole selling of artifacts and finds has increased dramatically, the values. And I think talking to one of the auction companies a few months ago, they said since lockdown, a lot more people have been on the internet, researched things, and we need something to put in the lounge over there. I want to get engaged. Rather than buy a ring from a local high street brand, why don't we buy you a medieval engagement ring or a Roman engagement ring, which is not that dear. It's definitely interesting. I mean, I look back now and I think, how lovely would it have been if I had a Roman wedding ring? How cool's that? And you can buy them. It's not, actually, just give me an idea of something actually regarding rings. Yes.
Nigel, tell us about the delinquent carrot.
Oh, this last. So yeah, I go up to Norfolk on the train to meet my friend Chris Holmes, and because I've said to him, "Can I borrow your gear?" You know, because I'm arriving on the train, and he said, "Yeah, of course." So he lends me a detector and this pinpointer that doesn't work properly. It's driving me nuts. And he says, "Well, you just got to put it in the earth and kind of earth it, and it'll calm down." And it kind of didn't really, but it was okay. I mean, I managed to sort of live with it for the day. I didn't find much, however. But yeah,
you have a pinpointer.
Yeah,
you have a pinpointer, Nigel.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Do you mind me asking what one you use?
Well, I think it's the Quest one. It just came with the. I think I got it free with the.
Oh yeah, really good. One of my favourite pinpointers. Yeah, just a basic on-off. Yeah, I've got one.
No, it works very well. It's good.
Yeah, really, really good. Is your Quest wireless or is it wired headphones?
Well, it was wired headphones, but then I had a bit of an accident because I'm quite accident prone, and I was detecting in a field just behind where I live up here. Got this permission from this neighbour, and I'm going along this hedgerow, and there's a garden next to the hedgerow that I don't really like. Well, I'm not really aware is there, and I don't know that there's a dog in the garden. And as I get up alongside the dog, it starts barking at me, and I didn't realise this, and it frightened the life out of me. And I kind of leapt up in the air, and my legs got entangled with the headphone cord, and I fell over. Like it kind of rugby tackled me, this cord, and I fell over in the field and ripped the cord out of the machine. So the machine is sort of bleeping publicly, and I realised I've ruined the socket for the headphone connection thing. So I bought a wireless. So I've now got wireless headphones, which I bought with a dongle. And they're so much better because that cord was really pissing me off. I kept tripping over it.
Yeah.
I feel your pain.
Been there many a time, getting tangled up in the lead.
Talking about headphones, you also mentioned the importance of headphones as well. How you're listening to the beeps and such like.
Yeah. I just think you just sort of zone off, don't you? When you got your headphones on, and I understood. People told me about the sort of therapeutic quality of metal detecting and the meditative quality. Chris Rogers talked to me about that. It's a bit like meditation and the repetition of the movement and all that. And I think having the headphones on as well, you can go to another place slightly. It is very kind of a bit dreamy. It can be a bit trippy, and it puts you in a good place sometimes when you're not in such a good place to begin with.
It also works very, very well from the odd rambler and dog walker. Have you found anything yet? If you've got the headphones on, you can pretend you can't hear a thing they're saying.
Yeah.
There's one of my favourite scenes on the Detectorists is when they come across a load of ramblers and every single one says, "Found treasure yet? Found gold yet? Found anything yet?" And we all get that in the hobby. And a lot of the time it's nice, but some of the time it's just like, I just want to be on my own, I just want to chill out, zone out. But headphones do come in well. Most of the
I realised I was on the other side because when I met that detectorist 10 years ago, I was doing all the things now that it would really irritate me if somebody, if a member of the public came across me when I was detecting, like, "What are you looking for then? You found anything then? Go on, let's have a look," and all this. And there's a smoke alarm.
Someone having a fire?
Is that here or there? Is that with you? Or
that's not me.
Hold on a minute. No, it's not here.
No, I think it's my partner's probably set the kitchen alight. Don't worry.
Sparking up a rock.
One of those Spanish paellas she makes. Gets a bit hot sometimes.
Do you want to check? Oh no, it's gone off.
No, it's still there. She's down there. She'll hopefully sort it out.
Tony Kaywood's just said, Adrian, imagine that falling over in a field.
If you've got a video, I don't know if Nigel.
I don't know what you're on about. What video?
That is classic. Yeah, that's one of our close friends, Tony Kaywood. He does a YouTube channel, and it's something in the hobby that no one's really done a lot of, apart from Fodder Phil and his bizarre.
Falling over.
No, just like bloopers. We did say on the show a few months ago, Dave, send in your bloopers.
Yeah, if you got any bloopers, please send them in. We'll laugh at them.
I had one at Detectorist. I took my machine out, went out. It was about lunchtime on Saturday. Got about a quarter of a mile out, had a few signals, didn't want to dig them. A couple were I could dig with my foot. And then I realised I've got me spade. What an idiot. That's
you, also had the blooper where you woke 400 people up setting off the van alarm as well.
Yeah.
But we don't talk about that.
No, we don't talk about that. I needed the toilet at 1 o'clock in the morning and you'd locked me in the van and I couldn't get out, so I panicked and it set the alarm off. So yeah, that's all. Did we want to do any other questions from people in the chat?
Anybody got any questions for Nigel? We'll sure pick them out. No problemo. Let me just bring this up again so people know. Obviously, as I said earlier, we'll put Adrian on big in a minute so you can see the QR code. But if you want to find the book, the review, and obviously the links to it, pop over to the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine, archmdmag.com, and the homepage currently has the Accidental Detectorist at the top, and it's also in the editor's pick, so you'll be able to find it anytime. Just click on there, and you'll be able to scroll through the review by Kerry, and then click on there on the available on Amazon, and it'll take you straight on there. £18.40. Oh, some 11 new from £12.72. And you'll be able, obviously, to buy the book. A lot of people bought it already, and there's a lot of people talking on the big detecting show today about it and how good they think it is. And I'm not as far as I'd like. I have a problem reading, and I might have to, because I listen to audio books constantly. I might have to take that up, but I've got my copy anyway.
If you're interested in a snippet, if you go to Audible, which is part of Amazon, Nigel's done a 5-minute little cut of the book, and it's really good. Isn't it you?
No.
It sounded like you.
No, it's an actor, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, that was one of my questions, because there's a few people who I've read audiobooks who narrate it themselves. That must be really hard work. Really.
Well, I did consider doing it. Well, they kind of asked me, maybe, do you want to do it? But if you're not a professional at it, it's really knackering and does your voice in. And in the end, they got a good, what's his name? Patrick Warner. He's very good. In fact, he does, on the telly, he does those British Airways ads as well.
Yeah.
I think he's the guy that does that, and he was really nice about the book because he got in touch with me afterwards to say how much he liked it, which was really, really good of him.
That's brilliant, because I think it's 8 hours, over 8 hours reading time, isn't it? So
he did that in one day. He did it in one take. I mean, not in one take, but he did it just in one day, I think. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Just had Facebook user already downloaded the Audi book, audio book. Love it so far. We'll be talking about it soon on the Joan Allen talk show. Brilliant stuff. Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna. It's a perfect stocking filler for Christmas. I know I'm going to listen to it on the audio book, but it's going to be on my Christmas list, the hardback.
Well, I mean, the thing is, it looks really nice. I think it's not, which is nothing to do with me, but they got the illustration. I think is fantastic, and a lot of people have said that to me. And that's an illustrator called Melanie Ford. I think she did a really great job.
It is fantastic cover.
And the other thing is, to me, it's really important and quite touching that detectorists like it, because the ones I've spoken to so far, I mean, maybe they're just being polite to me, but I think people do genuinely seem to like it, and that's brilliant, because I've only done it for a year. That almost all detectorists know a lot more than I do. But hopefully I've shown them, hopefully, they can identify with that. They've all gone through that same learning curve that I went through, that, the first sort of months and first 12 months. And also that they understand that I capture the sort of excitement of it as well. So, but it means a lot to me, because I know that maybe people who are into local history might want to read it and so on, or even archaeologists. But to me, it's really important that detectorists like it. And I was worried that they would think, well, why is this guy writing about it? He doesn't really know what he's talking about. But people seem to appreciate it, and that's brilliant.
There are some fantastic reviews actually on the on Amazon already about Wongtanzi, Bobs and Books, Amazon customer. I know them. JD Dennis, lots of other, all speaking very highly of the book.
Yeah.
How many pages is it? Somebody's asked, Nigel.
It's about 300, just a bit under 300. Yeah.
And I know I'm looking now. It's an 8 hour and 11 minutes listen. So I think I'll definitely have to go that way, because I'm just not reading at the moment.
And it's got
Carl Swain's just bought one. He can't wait to receive it.
It's got some nice photographs in it as well, because of not just my finds but other finds, and
Who did the illustrations because it's nice. Each chapter's got like an illustration.
Yeah, they have. Again, that's the same. Melanie did those, the one that did the cover. Because I had that idea, because I thought, for each chapter, why don't we illustrate just one of the finds that I write about? It actually doesn't have to be a find, because one of them's a pair of earphones, a pair of cans, and one of them's like
broken ones.
One of them's one of them's a little tent that I slept in on my Norfolk weekend and things like that. One of them's a Neolithic scraper, which I found in the garden. But it's just supposed to give you a little visual clue as to what's happening in that chapter.
Brilliant. What I was going to say, though, I was going to say something of great importance, and I can't remember. No, it's gone.
Would you look at writing another book around the hobby, Nigel, if this was successful?
I'd love to, but it's not down to me. I mean, if the publisher, if this book does well, there is a chance they might ask me to do another one, and I'd love to do it, because I'll just carry on. I've got the material. I know I'm always thinking what I'd do. I'd upgrade to a better detector. There are other stories that people have told me about already that I'd like to follow up for a new book. Mm-hmm. So it's a possibility, but it would be quite a while before we decide that.
Well, if ever you're down in Essex, give us a shout. You're more than welcome to come out with me on my commission. Quite interesting, and I'll try and teach you a thing or two.
I've just inadvertently clicked on a book which it says Nigel Richardson, author. Is it yourself? Britain's Best at Drives with Richard Wilson.
Oh yeah,
I've got that. I forgot to say that. I've got that book. Yeah, brilliant.
The thing that perked me ears is Adrian's very much into his old cars. So,
well, it's just more it's a bit like detecting. There's a story around the whole car scene thing and cars and people. So actually, that's a really good book. That was written a few years ago, wasn't it, Nigel?
Well, it's got to be at least, I think it's 2010. I think we did that. I mean, that because it was a TV series.
Yeah, that's right.
That Richard did on BBC 4 or something, I think.
Yeah.
And then they asked me to do the book of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever any other books that you've written?
Oh, quite a few, yeah. I mean, okay, the first one, Breakfast in Brighton. I wrote that about 20 years ago. That's about Brighton. Wrote a book about Soho called Dog Days in Soho. I've written 2 novels for young adults called The Wrong Hands and The Rope Ladder. I've ghostwritten books. That's what I also could ghostwrite books, but I can't tell you who they're for because they're ghostwritten. So
that's fantastic. Obviously, I only thought it was 1 or 2, and the obviously the journalism. So that's brilliant. I'll be the Dog Days in Soho. actually sounds like something I want. And the young adult books, sadly, I do like young adult books. I'm still a young adult.
Look, this is what I love reading in our show. John Morris, I will get a copy of this book for an 88th birthday present to myself on the 6th of October, Jerry. Well done, Jerry. That's what we like to hear.
Yeah,
it's really, really nice. I have trouble reading now, let alone.
John Clayton has said that the Detectorist is now back on BBC iPlayer.
Yeah,
brilliant. So if you haven't seen the Detectorist, get on it.
I think they've got a new special coming up, haven't they?
Detectorist. Yes, that's right. Yeah,
I can't wait for that. Yeah, I can't wait for that. I cannot wait. I love Wurzel Gummidge as well.
Oh, Wurzel Gummidge! I tell you what. I thought originally when Wurzel Gummidge come out, I thought, "What hairy fairy looks a pal," and I've watched every episode at least 4 times now. Love it.
Yeah.
Especially when the Detectorists are in the bottom of the field.
In the TR7.
Yeah.
No, that's
well, Nigel. It's been absolutely fantastic speaking to you tonight. Obviously, again, everybody, we've already said, click on Adrian's. What's it called, Adrian?
QR.
That's the word.
QR.
Click on that QR code and it'll take you directly to the Amazon for the Accidental Detectorist. And or go to the ArcMD mag, read the review and go it through there. Nigel, is there anything you would like to add before we go?
No, except it's just been a pleasure to talk to you. And it was great to meet you at Rodney Cook and to carry on the conversation tonight. It's been really good.
Appreciate that. It's been great you coming on. And again, we appreciate you, obviously, the postponement the other week and coming back on tonight. If there's anything else that we can obviously do for you in the future, don't hesitate to give us a shout.
Okay, thanks very much, chaps.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So Adrian will be hopefully streaming from Cyprus next week, drinking some form of Cypriot lager by the pool.
Yes.
Keo.
Yeah, Keo.
Isn't that orange juice? And there's a crow.
No, that's Kiora. Me and my dog. But no, hopefully I'll have good signal. So I'm with 2 hours ahead though, so it'll be 10 at night.
So you'll be very drunk then.
What, is Chris Rogers on next week, did you say?
Yeah, Chris Rogers and Tom Dempster. We're going to be talking about all things from the Joan Allen event a couple of weeks ago. Having a bit of review from that. And following on from that, the week after, if I pick up my screenshot that I did before, if I can find it, there it is. Following week, we have hopefully Gregory Edmonds, who is one of the auctioneers for Sphinx, telling us all about Sphinx. And they've got a very special coin that's coming up on the auction on the 7th. I'm waiting for his. We have sorted that out, but I'm just waiting for Gregory to respond to that. The week after, the 13th of October, we have Gary Cook coming on to give us an update on all things RCM. He's only coming on for 4 minutes. That's all I've allowed him, 4 minutes. And give us a running total of the funds raised at the Rodney Cook Memorial this year. I've got a figure in mind, and I really hope it beats the figure that's in my mind. And we'll also have Mark Becker and Pete Terrell coming on as well, and we'll be talking about Detectable, a bit of a review from Detectable, and the future of Detectable, and Just Detect as well. So a good couple of weeks, and hopefully on the 20th, we'll have Digger Dawn on, who wants to come on and discuss all things YouTube and things that have happened there.
Yes,
and then we've got a list of other people. We've got Malk Sutt coming on, Sci-Fines, Chris, the former discriminator, Jenny Porter from Midland Detecting Days, New Spade. What was his name? What was the company called?
MD Noble MD.
Noble MD. So New
Fantastic
Spade coming on.
Oh my god, yeah, really good.
Cy Weber, hopefully, and I've got several other people as well that I've remembered the names and wrote them down tonight. So I'll contact them next week. Again, Nigel, thank you very much for coming on to the show. And
thank you, chaps. Yeah.
I will see you all next week, and hopefully that young Mr. Adrian will see you next week.
In my Speedos.
In his Speedos. Double dare physical challenge. Good night.